Throughout the class, we've assumed that firms charge a single price for their product, that no matter where you go to get a product, it's going to be the same price. But is this model good enough? So in this chapter, we're going to explore when it's possible for a firm to charge a different price for the same product, why a firm would want to charge different prices to different people, whether that practice would increase or decrease overall economic efficiency, and what are some other pricing strategies that make sense for firms to use. Let's explore this with a thought experiment. Let's suppose there's two identical products being sold for different prices in two different locations. So imagine an Apple iPad selling for $499 in a store in Atlanta, and it's being sold for $429 in a store in Tallahassee, Florida. So what do you think is going to happen? Well, remember, people have a natural tendency to truck barter and exchange, to try to buy low and to sell high, to try to make money for themselves. So an entrepreneur, noticing the difference in prices, would start buying iPads in Tallahassee, where the price is lower, shipping them to Atlanta, and selling them for $499, or maybe a little less. So this practice of buying a product in one market and reselling it in a market with a higher price is known as arbitrage. It's when entrepreneurs notice a difference in prices between two areas for the same good, so they buy from the low area, sell to the high area. If this entrepreneur engages in arbitrage, what will happen in the prices in Atlanta, where the price is $499, and in Tallahassee, where the price is currently $429? The supply of iPads in Atlanta will rise, which is going to bring down the price. The supply of iPads in Tallahassee will fall, which is going to increase the price in Tallahassee. So if it were completely free to transport iPads between the two cities, the price would converge to being exactly the same in each location. So this is the law of one price. That if there's a discrepancy in prices between two areas, competitive pressure, entrepreneurs are going to buy where it's cheaper and sell where the price is higher. That's going to change the supply and demand in both regions, or both areas, bringing the price together, so the prices will converge. On the previous slide, I said if it were free to transport iPads between Tallahassee and Atlanta, then the prices would converge to the same price. However, that's not the case. There are transaction costs involved in transporting between the two cities. Obviously, you have to pay for fuel, you have to pay for whoever's going to drive them up there, so there are costs associated with it. Now, these transaction costs, remember, are the costs in time or in other resources that partners are going to incur in the process of agreeing to and carrying out an exchange of goods or services. We only expect the law of one price to hold perfectly when transaction costs are zero. And it can only apply if resale is possible. So the law of one price is not going to apply to haircuts because you can't resell a haircut once you get it. But if it's a product like, say, iPads, it's easy to buy them and then sell them again. Now, sometimes it appears that firms can be selling the same product at different prices, which violates the rule of one price. So let's look at an example. There's the same Blu-ray that may sell for different prices on different websites. But is the same movie on different websites really the same product? Let's look at the table below. It's a little bit of a joke, but it illustrates the point. So you can go to companies like Amazon and Walmart.com, and they're basically the same price. So the site offers you fast delivery to your home, secure packaging, payments that's easy and that you can trust. But you go to other websites, waitforeverforyourorder.com. You get a lower price, but it takes longer for it to get there. Or just started in business last Wednesday.com. Super low price, but can you actually trust they're going to deliver it to you? So while they are selling the same exact Blu-ray disc to you, there's different levels of trust and different services that you're getting along with it. So you're not just getting the product, you're getting peace of mind and knowing it's going to get there, it's going to ship on time and quickly, that your information is secure, that you don't know with those other sites. Another example from my personal life, I ordered an It's Always Sunny Patty's Pub t-shirt for St. Patrick's Day a couple weeks ago. My buddy and I did from a website we found that was really cheap. So we both ordered, and guess what happened? They never shipped it to us. So we had to go to Amazon, get it off there for a higher price, but it arrived quickly, and it actually came to us. So those are definitely, those two Patty's Pub t-shirts, while definitely the same product, they were slightly different from each website because Amazon we could trust, and we can get it quickly. The other one, turns out we could not trust. Now let's explore price discrimination, or charging different prices for the same exact product. So let's suppose you go with your family to see a movie. As a student, you'll probably get a student discount. Now, I graduated George Mason 2 years ago now, but every time I go down to DC, I still use my ID from grad school to get student prices because, I'm a cheap bastard. Your grandparents, if they go to a movie, they might get the senior discount, but your parents are probably going to have to pay full price. Now, the movie theater charges these different prices, even though it costs them the exact same amount to show the movie to each one of you. This is an example of price discrimination, which is charging different prices to different consumers for the same product when the price differences are not due to differences in cost. Discrimination on the basis of arbitrary characteristics, things like race or gender, is certainly illegal, and businesses are not allowed to do that. Price discrimination is performed on the basis of willingness and ability to pay, and that is generally legal. So, for example, the students and the elderly tend to be poorer than adults of working age. You have very low or no incomes. So their willingness to pay for a movie tends to be lower. So in order to encourage old people and students to come see the movies, they charge them a lower price. Now, there are some gray areas with price discrimination. Car insurance companies typically charge lower prices to women than to men because men tend to have more accidents than women. But what would happen if a car company determined that one race tended to have more accidents than them? So there are some problems and some gray areas within price discrimination that can get a little iffy. But the main idea is based on, in insurance, different levels of risk, or for most goods and services, for people's willingness and ability to pay. In order for price discrimination to be possible, 3 characteristics must be met. So first, firms must possess market power, some sort of way to differentiate their product, so that way the firm has some market power. Otherwise, if a firm is selling identical products, they're a price taker. The price they sell is determined by the market, so they'll be unable to change their prices. The second is identifiable groups of consumers have different willingness to pay for the product. So if the firm is unable to identify who is more willing and less willing to pay for a product, they're not going to be able to price discriminate. And third, arbitrage of the product is not possible. That's either because reselling the product is not logically possible, so education, movies, haircuts, these things you can't get and sell to somebody else, or because transaction costs involved make the resale impractical. Let's explore a real-world example of price discrimination. Military discounts at Home Depot. So Home Depot offers a 10% discount to military personnel, active reserve, and to their families. Home Depot certainly has some market power. They have the brand name capital, and there is some differentiation between their product and other home improvement products. And it can identify military personnel by using their military identification cards. So those are 2 of the 3 that we've checked off. But doesn't arbitrage seem possible? Couldn't someone in the military purchase stuff and then sell it at a higher price to someone who's not in the military? Now, there's some reasons why this program doesn't get abused. First of all, a 10% discount is relatively small. People might consider it immoral to abuse the discount because of, giving honor to veterans and not wanting to abuse that and maybe not get it taken away from them. And the third is transaction costs, the inconvenience of having someone else buy goods for you. This ends up being pretty high. Let's look more at groups of consumers with different willingness to pay. If firms can practice price discrimination, who will they charge a higher price to? The first group they're going to charge a higher price to is groups with higher demand. These people are willing to pay more, and firms will profit by charging them more. The second is groups with a lower price elasticity of demand. These people are less sensitive to price, so raising the price on them will result in fewer of them ceasing to use the product. Let's return to the example of a movie theater and their price discrimination. So often, another way that movie theaters price discriminate is by charging lower prices for matinees in the afternoon and then higher prices in the evening when there's greater demand. So because demand for movies are higher in the evening than they are in the afternoon, the profit maximizing price to a ticket in the afternoon showing is going to be less. So looking at the figure above on the left for the afternoon showings, the marginal revenue crosses the marginal cost curve at 450 tickets. So taking that up to the demand curve, we find that at the profit maximizing quantity, profit maximizing price will be $7.25 for a ticket. That's how a movie theater maximizes their profit for the afternoon showings. For the evening showings, demand is going to be much higher. If movie theaters priced at $7.50, they continue that for the evening, they would sell 800 tickets for the evening. But that's not the profit maximizing price. Profit maximizing price is at a quantity of 625, where the marginal revenue curve crosses the marginal cost curve. Tracing that quantity up to the demand curve, we find that the profit maximizing price is $9.75. So when demand is higher in the evening, the profit maximizing price is going to be higher. Another idea for pricing is yield management. Yield management is the practice of continually adjusting prices to take into account fluctuations in demand in order to maximize a firm's profit. One example of that is Uber, which is constantly adjusting prices based on the supply and demand. Another is airlines that adjust the prices of their flights depending on how full the flight is and what they anticipate the demand for the flight will be before departure. Yield management is a sophisticated form of price discrimination that relies on gathering and understanding a lot of data about your consumers and their behavior. So how do airlines do this? Airlines divide their consumers into two main categories. The first is business travelers, and the second is leisure travelers. Business travelers are generally less sensitive to price, so profit maximization suggests charging them more. When I'm traveling for work for St. Francis, I don't really care about the price as long as I know it's going to fall in line with what St. Francis is willing to pay for. Because it's not coming out of my pocket, I'm less sensitive to price. But no one would volunteer the information that they were a business traveler if it meant that they had to pay more. So instead, airlines try to infer this information from judging how far in advance these people are booking their tickets and how long they plan on staying in that destination for their round trip. The figure on this slide illustrates price discrimination by using a United Airlines flight from Chicago to Los Angeles from, several years ago. To note, there's 33 consumers, 33 tickets being shown here, and 27 different prices being charged. Now, the people who bought tickets more than 14 days in advance generally paid lower prices. Now, there are some exceptions, and this suggests yield management by the airline, that they're using this information, where they're going, how long they're staying, to infer whether they're business travelers and willing to pay a higher price, or leisure travelers who are willing to wait or go on a different day, or even just change your trip and drive somewhere closer, so they're more sensitive to price. Now, perfect price discrimination, or first-degree price discrimination, refers to charging every customer a price exactly equal to their willingness to pay for a product. So in this case, every single consumer would buy the product, but the consumer surplus is going to be zero. The firm is extracting all the surplus from the market. Perfect price discrimination is probably impossible in practice, but it can illustrate a surprising result. Price discrimination might increase overall economic efficiency. So let's explore this a little bit more. In the figure on this slide, we see supply and demand curves for a monopolist who is unable to practice price discrimination. So just as before, the monopolist chooses the price where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Many consumers who are willing to pay more than marginal cost miss out, causing a deadweight loss, which is represented by the yellow triangle in the middle. Now let's compare that with a monopolist who's able to price discriminate perfectly. So if it sells to every single consumer that has a willingness to pay greater than the marginal cost, this is going to maximize profit for the monopolist. At this point, the monopolist is going to be selling the efficient output. Remember, the efficient output is where the demand curve crosses the marginal cost curve. And that's why we seek to rectify monopolies and try to add or ensure that there's competition in markets, because of the deadweight loss and the decrease of output. But if we allow perfect price discrimination by monopolists, we'll end up with the efficient output being produced. What are the effects of price discrimination? Well, first, we know that price discrimination is going to increase profit for firms, or else, being rational, they wouldn't do it. But remember, it also decreases consumer surplus, so it's making consumers worse off. Overall, can we say that price discrimination increases economic efficiency or decreases deadweight loss? Unfortunately, it's not always the case. So the results of price discrimination on overall welfare are ambiguous. It could be positive or it could be negative, depending on the situation. Another way that firms price discriminate is by charging different prices across time. For example, a book publisher often sell a hardcover version first, and then some months later release a cheaper paperback version. But the production costs for hardback and paperback are very similar. The publisher is simply trying to determine who's a huge fan, who can't wait to read the book, who has to buy it immediately, and is willing to pay more. So they'll charge those people more money. Then people that can wait, that are more sensitive to price, they charge them a lower price later on with the paperback books. We also see this with new cell phones or any sort of electronics that come out. New game systems, new cell phones, new computers. They'll charge a very high price up front for the early adopters that are willing to pay a lot of money to get the new product. And then over time, they lower the price as more and more people are willing to buy, but they're going to wait until the price goes down some, until they really need it or until it's worth the additional investment to them.